Welcome to Do the Math America. I am Charlene, the Math Shaman.
Simple and compound interest is covered on pages 93 through 96 of the Beginning Algebra book. Please look in the description box below this video for the PDF file of the textbook, which you may use to make a hard copy for yourself. Simple interest. Interest is the amount of money charged for the use of borrowed money. Interest is also the amount of money earned for the money deposited in a bank. The interest rate is usually expressed as a percent of the principal over a period of time. If the interest rate is computed on a yearly basis, it is called a yearly rate or an annual rate. When interest is computed on the principal only, no interest on the interest previously earned, it is called simple interest. The formula to compute simple interest is interest equals principal times rate times time, or I equals P times R times T. Find the simple interest you pay if you borrow $500 for 3 years at an annual rate of 7%. Once again, the formula for interest is I for interest equals P principal times R rate times T time. So I equals P, which is $500, R, which is 7%, and T, which is 3 years, so 3. So we have 500 times 7% times 3. To solve this problem, we must first convert 7% into a decimal, and I use my reference 100% equals 1. To remind myself that to convert a percent to a decimal, I must move the decimal point 2 places to the left and drop the percent sign. So I take 7%, move that decimal point 2 places to the left, and end up with 0.07. Now I go back to my problem and substitute 0.07 for 7%, and I have 500 times 0.07 times 3. I continue the problem. Right away, I see that 500 times 3 equals 1,500. So I simplify that first, and then I multiply with 0.07. Now I need to multiply 1,500 times 0.07, and I do that calculation on the side. Always be sure to double check your figures when you are doing these side calculations. And make sure you give yourself plenty of space on your paper so that you can spread out your digits and write the numbers clearly. So 1,500 times 0.07 equals 105. So the interest is $105. And we box our answer. You have a savings account with $500. The annual interest rate is 3.5%. How much simple interest will your account earn in 3 months? How much do you have in your account after 3 months? The formula for finding interest is principal times rate times time, or I interest equals P times R times T. The principal is $500. The annual interest rate is 3.5%, and we want to know how much is accumulated in the account after 3 months. So we need to figure out how much is the monthly interest rate. The relationship of 3 months to 1 year can be written as a ratio, 3 months to 12 months. 3/12 in its simplest form is 1/4. So 3 months is 1/4 of a year. So now we plug those numbers into our formula. We have 500, which is the principal, times 3.5% annual interest rate, times 1/4 of a year. Now we convert 3.5% to a decimal using our reference 100% equals 1. to trigger our memory that the decimal point needs to move back to the left 2 places and remove the percent sign to get the decimal. So 3.5%, we move that decimal point to the left 2 spaces to get 0.035. Now we plug 0.035 in place of 3.5% on the next line, and we have 500 times 0.035 times 1/4. So I will start by multiplying 500 times 1/4, and I will do that calculation on the side. 500 times 1/4 is the same as 500 divided by 4, and that works out to be 125. I write that in the next line, 125, as a simplification for 500 times 1/4, and then I multiply that with 0.035, continuing my problem. 125 times 0.035, I will do that calculation on the side. When you do a calculation like this, it's important to give yourself lots of space to work with and not crowd your numbers. Make sure to spread out all the characters and line up the place values. Don't worry about wasting paper. You might actually need a separate piece of paper to do these side calculations. The trees will forgive you as long as you get the right answer. So make sure you double check your work. Okay, so now we've worked it out that I equals $4.375, and we round up to $4.38, which is how much simple interest your account has earned in 3 months. The question we also have to answer is how much is in the account after 3 months. So we add $4.38 to $500, the principal amount, and we get $504.38. And we box our answer. Compound interest. Compound interest is computed on the principal plus the interest previously earned. The principal increases when the interest is compounded. The compound interest is usually given in daily, monthly, quarterly, semi-annually, or yearly. The formula to compute the compound amount, principal plus compound interest, is A equals P times 1 plus R to the nth power, where A equals compound amount, P equals principal, R equals annual interest rate, and N equals number of years. You have a savings account with $500. The annual interest rate is 7%, compounded yearly. How much do you have in your account after 3 years? We write down our formula. A equals P times 1 plus R to the nth power. And then we plug and chug our values into our variables. So P, principal, is 500 times 1 plus 7% to the third power. First, we convert 7% to a decimal using our reference 100% equals 1 to remind us to move the decimal point 2 places to the left and take off the percent sign to get the decimal. So 7%, move the decimal point 2 places to the left to get 0.07. Now we plug 0.07 back into our equation in place of 7%. We have 500 times 1 plus 0.07 to the third power. According to orders of operation, we must first solve the calculation within the brackets. So 1 plus 0.07 equals 1.07. To the third power times 500, we continue the problem. Now we must solve the exponent, 1.07 to the third power. And I do that calculation on the side. We start by multiplying 1.07 times 1.07. Again, it is critical to get these side calculations done correctly, so make sure you double check your work. 1.07 squared works out to be 1.1449. I take 1.1449, multiply it by 1.07, which will give me 1.07 to the third power. These calculations with so many digits and decimal places are very easy to get wrong, so it's important to write your numbers clearly, give yourself space between each character, make sure you line up the place values, and then double check your answers at the end. You will find that when you are learning math, it's valuable to do these calculations and not just let the calculator do all your work, because it will reinforce your numerical literacy and give you more confidence in math, as well as train your eye to recognize when you have made a mistake. Okay, so 1.07 to the third power works out to be 1.225043, which I will write on the next line and continue the problem. So I have 500 times 1.225043. And I will do that calculation also on the side. So I write down 1.225043. I make sure I get all those digits written down correctly and double check that I've done so before I actually start the calculation. You have to be very deliberate and focused when you are doing a calculation like this and not allow your attention to wander or to be sidetracked by other distractions. So A equals $612.52. We box our answer. $500 is deposited in a bank at 6%, compounded monthly. Find the new principal after 3 months. 6% is the annual interest rate. To find out how much is compounded monthly, divide the annual rate by 12. 6% divided by 12, because there are 12 months per year. Now we convert 6% to a decimal. Back to using our reference, 100% equals 1. To remind us to bring the decimal point 2 places to the left and remove the percent sign to get the decimal. So 6% becomes the decimal 0.06 divided by 12, doing that calculation on the side. So 0.06 divided by 12 works out to be 0.005. So the monthly rate as 0.005, and we can plug that back into the formula. A equals P times 1 plus R to the nth power. 500 is the principal, P, times 1 plus R, which is 0.005, to the third power, because we are looking for the principal after 3 months. So now we need to do the calculation according to the order of operations. We first need to solve the problem within the parentheses. 1 plus 0.005 equals 1.005. Next, we must solve the exponent. So I do that on the side, 1.005 to the third power. 1.005 times 1.005 works out to be a long number, which I will write down on the side because that is the square of 1.005. So I need to multiply that number by 1.005 to get the cubed product. So this is the standard algorithm for multiplication that I am using, and I am showing you this on this video because many schools in America have not been teaching standard algorithms for multiplication for maybe over 20 years. Instead, they were teaching something called the Egyptian lattice method, in which students are taught to draw sort of a slanted tic-tac-toe, break down the numbers, and multiply that way. The problem with the Egyptian lattice method is that it does not allow for the placement of decimals, and also does not give a sense of how the reverse operation division works. Okay, so now I have worked out 1.005 cubed, and I will write down that figure underneath the problem and continue the multiplication. I need to multiply that product with 500. And I do that calculation on the side, being scrupulously careful about writing down all the digits and place values and keeping a bit of a space between each number. Crowding is the kiss of death when you are trying to solve complicated math problems. So get in the habit of spreading out your work, writing things out clearly. Since I am demonstrating this problem on a limited screen, don't have the luxury of spreading out my work. A equals $507.54. We box our answer. Now I ask you to check out the problems on pages 94 through 96, exercises for you to practice these skills. Please do as many problems as you need to get a firm handle of on this material. And please check your answers with those in the back of the book to make sure you did the problems correctly. As you can see by just scanning these word problems, these skills are required in our lives every single day, so it would be well worth your time to develop these skills.
If you found my video helpful, please give me a thumbs up, subscribe, and share this channel with anyone you know who wants to learn math. Thank you for joining me at Do the Math America.